Giants fans, welcome back to another episode of Coach's Insight. And we're so excited to be back for another episode because it does mean another round of netball as we head into the 2021 finals series. Now, a lot to cover off this week, so we're going to jump straight into it, Jules. And we've got to point it out and bring it up, but that ladder as it stands at the end of round 14, how proud are you to be sitting atop of the table?
Oh, look, absolutely delighted. And for those first couple of days after that game, we really celebrated. But now we know that we're entering into a new phase. Finals is a completely different thing, and that we've got to concentrate on the games ahead and know that there's going to be a lift in intensity.
I know you've mentioned it across a couple of chats and interviews that you have done since that match, but the Giants have gone from 6th in season 2020 to 1st in season 2021. What do you put that change or improvement down to?
Oh, look, I just think we've had a reasonably stable roster. We've been able to develop the combinations that we've got on court. We've got a lot of young players and they're a year older. A year's experience is a lot when you're that young. So I'm very grateful for the development that they have shown over the last 12 months.
Well, as you said, the hard work doesn't stop now. It almost steps up in the intensity of finals. But another thing to stop and acknowledge is the 6 players that were named across the Australian Diamonds and the Australian Development Squad over the weekend. Firstly, what do you make of the first 3 that have named in the Diamond Squad?
Oh, absolutely delighted. Kira and Jamie Lee obviously are retaining their spot, and to see Amy Parmenter join them was very, very exciting for us. We think she thoroughly deserves that.
And then Sophie Dwyer, an invitee to the Diamonds camp, but also listed in the development squad alongside Maddie Hay and Tilly McDonald. A massive reward for those 3 who just get better each time they take the court.
Oh, it is, and 3 reasonably inexperienced players, so it's great to see them get a reward and be a step up the ladder in higher honours.
Now, taking a look at our opponent this week, we are coming up against the New South Wales Swifts. It's been 1 win each so far this year. What do you take away from the 2 times we've faced them this season?
They were very, very different games, and I think both teams are playing slightly different netball now, and we were a little bit further down the track. It was a defining game for us. I think it's a game that gave us a lot of confidence, and that we've continued to grow since that game and realised that we can be a force in this competition.
It is a special moment. It is the first time that both New South Wales teams have made the final series in the same year and also coming up against each other. So no doubt that rivalry will be extra strong come Saturday.
Oh, look, it will be, and I just feel so sorry for all the netball fans in New South Wales and Netball New South Wales itself that we can't play this game at home. But I do hope that when people turn their televisions on, they can forget the circumstances that they're living in New South Wales and Sydney at the moment. We can give them joy for a couple of hours.
Well, one player in particular for the Swifts that has not only had a good season but had a really strong match in their round 14 game against the Lightning, and that is Sarah Clow. She finished that match with 9 gains, 4 intercepts, 3 rebounds and 71.5 miss and net points, which is quite high for a goalkeeper. How do you stop her from having an impact like that this week?
Oh, look, we have to be very smart. I think Sarah is in great form and she really is playing very well. So we'll have to be very smart in how we handle her and how we handle that whole attack end.
She'll most likely come up against Jo Harton, who also had a cracking game last week. What did you make of her performance, Jules?
I think last week was one of the best games I've seen Jo play, and certainly this year I thought she was superb last week, not only in how she played but how she led the team as well.
Now, we did have 2 players that couldn't take the court in round 14 due to some injuries, and that was April Brandley and Tilly McDonald. Can you give us a bit of an update on how they're tracking ahead of Saturday's game?
Look, they're tracking reasonably well, but we're still not in a position yet to determine whether or not they can play or if they can take part in the game at any level. But they have tracked well. They've worked terribly hard on their rehab, and we're certainly hoping that they'll be available to us.
And we'll give you another opportunity to preach to the people, Jules, but how important do you think it is to have 12 players in a squad for moments like that?
Look, it's not just us. Like, we've had 3 or 4 occasions this year where the need to have 12 players has been obvious. But if you want to have a look at Firebirds, for instance, if they were in the hub and not fortunate enough to be in Brisbane, they would have finished the season and the last couple of games with 7 players. And that's just not enough. And I don't think we can pretend that COVID's going away and that we won't be in this situation next year. I can't understand how anyone could argue against 12. I think it's an absolute necessity.
Well said, Jules. Well, Giants fans, this Saturday it is the major semi-final of Suncorp Super Netball action between the Giants and the New South Wales Swifts. It is at Nissan Arena in Brisbane, but Giants fans, if you're living in Queensland or you know friends or family, encourage them to get their tickets and come along. It's 1 o'clock this Saturday, and it will be live on Channel 9 for those members and fans tuning in from home.